recently I uploaded a short about 3 specific transitions and poses. And so I thought I'd clarify in this longer video so that you kind of see what I'm talking about. The first one is getting into any standing pose from down dog. And it was just kind of a joke on kind of a trending video on shorts about like, this is a work of art and this is bullshit, right? So the work of art part for me, the first example was getting from down dog to a standing pose. So it wouldn't even matter what standing pose it is. My work of art demonstration was bringing a foot forward and building the stability here. The bullshit one, which is popular, but the reason that I don't like it is because it involves momentum and it doesn't really help you to connect with what the core is really capable of doing. So sometimes you'll be told to like inhale, lift a leg, exhale, bring the foot forward. So you're using momentum to get it there. And the breath also is really incongruent to what the nervous system wants you to do. So in my teacher trainings, in my methodology, there's a 4-part breath and you move in the space between the breaths. So you have the space between the exhale and the inhale, the space between the inhale and the exhale. And that's what this whole thing is about. And this is how you can learn to move really gracefully and freely, with also building longevity and sustainability. And that's what it's about, right? We want to be able to do this stuff forever. So if you eliminate the momentum and change the breath pattern a little bit, then you really start to connect to a deeper part of your ability. And so let's try it out here. So if I'm coming into, let's just say warrior one, if you lift a leg up and then swing it, it's really kind of an achievement-based approach because you think you have to get your foot all the way up to where your hands are, but you don't, right? So the work of art part of this would be the more connected part where you're going to use abdominal strength and just pull the foot up. It doesn't even have to be all the way here. If your foot goes here on its own, then that's probably the right warrior one for you right now. But that's another video, all right? So you can also turn the back foot out to give you a little bit more stability. I like to do that afterwards. So if I bring the foot forward, turn the back foot out, then I can push through both legs, lengthen through the front of the body, bring the gaze forward, and I'm pushing through the legs to bring the torso up. So there's no momentum being used here, just real conscious, deliberate movement. So let's go through the breath. So this is an inhale and an exhale and then all this stuff. Okay, I'm not going to diss that too much anymore. I think I've made my point. So this is an exhale to down dog, and there's no breath here. Inhale is here. Always inhaling when the body is most open, and then plant the hands, and if we're not taking a vinyasa, we'll step back, and the exhale is here, depending on how long you stay in warrior one. Doesn't really matter right now. But I really want you to consider getting a little bit more length between each side of the breath. That's when the mind is most calm and focused, and you can really stay in your practice. This technique is about staying in your practice. It's really easy to daydream when you're flinging your leg around. So you have to start to connect with using the body and staying checked in. That's what I like about this technique. So I'm going to exhale, bring a foot forward, push, and inhale here. All right. So we're eliminating that flinging. Okay, so the second pose that I went through in that short was Parshva side crow. And my two examples, the work of art is in keeping lots of space between the rib cage and this other elbow here. So you're pushing and leaning and lifting the feet up and everything's really connected. I've got lots of side crow tutorials on my channel, so just check those out. I don't have to go through it right now, but the BS part is in turning sideways and resting on both elbows. This will get you nowhere. This is an absolute dead end in your practice. If you're facing this way and you're doing something, you kind of have to turn, and then you're turning sideways, and then you're all crunched in and you're just resting on the backs of the arms. Versus, this is like creating a new bandha here between the side of your leg and the back of an arm. So if you're working on side crow, think of moving diagonally, pushing, lifting the hips up a lot and leaning enough so that your feet will ultimately float off of the floor. And that's what we want. This side crow version here, where you're resting on both elbows, it's that achievement-based idea of do the pose versus building the energetics of the pose. If you can do this right now, but this takes you a week or a month or a year, that's longevity. That's sustainability in your practice. This means nothing. Where are you going to go from there? So you want space, good feng shui, lots of room for energy to move around you, and that's what supports you in these arm balances. So push at a diagonal, lean, keep that gaze forward, lots of space between this arm and the rib cage, okay? Now the third thing was Chaturanga to up dog. And now this is complicated, and it does take time to build these skills. These are the skills that carry you through your practice. Chaturanga to up dog is like such a huge skill, but Chaturanga is really overlooked, and people tend to just kind of sweep through it. There are a lot of different styles of Chaturangas where the shoulders are right up over the hands and your buns are a little bit higher, like, this is pretty typical, and then you're, coming into up dog like this. That's basically what my example looked like in that short that I did. But Chaturanga is so cool on its own and just so dismissed. You say, okay, take a vinyasa. Let's say you're coming out of Warrior One, and okay, take a vinyasa, just kind of swoop up into up dog and then to down dog. Chaturanga is an exhale. So if you're swooping or flinging around, then there's no connection to the breath. Chaturanga is an exhale, all right? So if I'm in Warrior One, plant the hands, exhale, inhale. Exhale. So it's just about deliberate movement. If Chaturanga like that is really hard, there are a couple of different ways to build your strength for it. Now, I have no problem with you coming down all the way onto the belly. Now look where my hands are, right by the waist, not up here. This is internally rotating the shoulders. And then when you lift up to up dog, you're like this, and then you can't really get anywhere. If you want to come onto your belly, this would be my recommendation, is to come all the way down onto the belly. Hands are by the waist. Take the shoulders down. And then all you're doing is straightening the arms and lifting the thighs for up dog. Your strength will build doing it that way. I know that for sure, because I've watched thousands of students build their strength that way. So yours will too. And just be patient and let that strength build on its own. Another technique that I like is to use a block and kind of practice what Chaturanga could feel like. Make sure your hands are down here, not up here. You want to take the shoulders down and back, and then you can practice this transition with your toes tucked, or on the tops of the feet. Okay. These 3 changes will absolutely elevate your practice. Thanks.